Alright, good day everyone. This is just some warm-up help to get you started. You may not need the whole video, you may need one or two problems, and if that's the case, that's alright. Either way, we're going to get through this together. So let's get started. Find the slope and y-intercept of the following equation. 4x plus 8y equals 2. Here's where we're going to start. The first thing is 4 is not our slope, 8 is not our y-intercept. What I'm thinking that you're used to seeing is slope intercept form. And for slope intercept form, you would normally get an equation that look like y equals mx plus b. That could be true, okay? This is the perfect name for slope intercept form because in order, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So it's labeled slope intercept, but that's the y-intercept. That's just a little bit of information because in this class we'll deal with x-intercepts as well as y-intercepts. Okay, so let's get started with this one. We were given 4x plus 8y equals 2. In order to make this equation look like this equation so you can find both the slope and the y-intercept, we need to solve this equation for y. Now truthfully, there's another way that we can do this. There's a couple of ways that I'm thinking of that we can do this, but this is probably one way that you're most familiar with seeing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to say that we're given 4x plus 8y equals 2, which, by the way, this is considered standard form for a linear equation. Okay, we'll get into some more things like that soon enough. Okay, so here we go. The first thing that I want to do, because 8y is positive, I want to leave it exactly where it is and make this 4x become a 0. To make this 4x become a 0, right now it's a positive 4x. How do we know it's positive? It don't have a plus sign in front of it, but it don't have a negative sign, so it's positive. So I'm going to do the inverse and I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. Now what I want you to notice is that I did not line up that 2 and that 4x, but in any event I got me a 0 here, and I'm going to have 8y equals, now in this form over here, the term with x goes first, and then a number will be by itself. So that's how I'm going to write it. Minus 4x plus 2. My reason for doing so, I want it to be in the order of mx plus b. So then I'm still solving for y. We're not finished yet because right now we got 8y, which is another way of saying 8 times y. And since it's multiplying, we're going to do the inverse. And we're going to divide. So what I like to do is I'll divide 8y by 8, but I've seen people draw an entire line. Don't do that. Divide every single term by 8. Okay, you're less likely to make a mistake if you divide everything out. So here we go. 8 divided by 8, that's our 1. That leaves us with y equals, I'm going to simplify this, a negative 4 divided by 8. 4 can divide into 4 and 4 can divide into 8, so I'm going to have a negative half. Don't forget your x. Plus, I got two fractions here. 2 8s can be reduced by 2 to get 1/4. Now, this is in the same order of this. We have a number in front of x. We have a number for b. And so here's what you would come up with, or what we've just come up with. The slope, in this case, written with m, a lowercase m, is a negative half. And then b, in this case, which is our y-intercept, is a positive 1/4. So with that being said, we are done with this problem. Now if you want to pause and do the warm up, the first one, that's how you would do it. Okie dokie. Take a moment and pause if you need to write something down, or go back and press rewind if you need to hear it again. Okay. Okay, here is our second video. Miss Gable, it's a word problem just like the one that you see there on your warm-up. Miss Gable needs to hire someone to cut the grass at her mom's house. Due to the growth of the yard, King's Lawn Care will charge a fee of $500 plus an additional $80 an hour. Which equation represents C of H, the total cost for lawn care? Okay, so there's a lot going on in this problem, but there's two things that should stick out to you. We have a flat fee, no matter what, just for them coming out and cutting the yard, they're charging $500. And then there's an additional rate of $80 per hour. Now rate should ring a bell. Okay, if this was a rate, I'm gonna write something down. We would call it our rate of change. It is also called the change in the Y value over the change in the X values. And all of these things here, it represents M, which from the first problem of the day represents our slope. Okay, so that tells us that we have our slope here. Now, I didn't address it, but I should probably. This right here, you said which equation represents our cost, which is C of H. Well, if C of H is my cost, then I know no matter what, when I figure these things out, it ain't gonna be H of C. C and D is automatically gone. Okay, so let me go back to what we were doing. The slope, M, is our rate of change. It's our change in Y over our change in X. But the rate of change here is our fee per hour. How much money we gonna charge per hour? So in this case, our slope is $80 actually. And then no matter what, in the beginning, in the very beginning, B from the last problem we just did is our y-intercept. Whoops. At the very beginning, no matter what, they're going to charge me $500 just for showing up. So I ask you for an equation that represents the cost. Well, if the slope is 80 and the y-intercept is 500, well, I know that you're still used to that equation. Y equals mx plus b. But in this case, our total cost is C of H, and that equals our slope here, which we found is 80 times X, but in this case we use an H to represent our time. Okay, don't let that bother you. We can use H and it'll be just fine. Okay, plus the fee of $500. So this equation here, in this case is B, represents our equation. So there you have it. Now I want you to, if you need to, pause, go back, feel free to ask a question if you're stuck on something, or if it seemed like I went too fast or something wasn't as clear. Okay, but excuse me, hiccup. Once you know your slope and you know your y-intercept, you know the beginning, and I'm saying beginning, but let me just give you a little bit more so I can tell you where that come from. Okay, I call the y-intercept B because look here, if this is my origin, this is my hours, and this is my cost per hour. In the very beginning, if I said that this is 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, no matter what, I'm paying them $500. And then because I'm paying them, this graph would just be a line that looks something like that. Not as steep, but it would definitely have a y-intercept at 0, 500. And if you remember about graphing, you always start at the beginning with your y-intercept. That's for linear functions, just so that you know. All right, never mind me.